Welcome. This is Darren Wiggins talking on my topic of cybercrime for Business 346. First off, I am Darren Wiggins. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a sophomore here at Mercer University. I'm an economics major, and I'm a student athlete. I play football, and I love to read and listen to music. For this discussion, I will be talking about cybercrime and internet law. The Webster Dictionary states that cybercrime is offenses that are committed against individuals or groups of individuals with a criminal motive to intentionally harm the reputation of the victim or cause physical or mental harm or loss to the victim directly or indirectly using modern telecommunication networks such as the internet and other telecommunication devices. Cybercrime may threaten a person or a nation's security and financial health, and usually deals with hacking, copyright infringements, unwarranted mass surveillance, sometimes extortion, and other malicious activities. My legal argument that I will be fighting for today, which we'll talk about later on, is if I voluntarily put my personal information on the cloud or on the internet, and as I said, and then technically if someone comes online and somehow gets my information by accessing my files through a certain connection on the cloud to obtain money and other personal information, aka hacking, which we'll talk about later as well. And then, is this really a violation of my privacy, and is this considered a cybercrime? The topic is fairly easy, but we're going to dive deeper into the different acts that are in place to prevent certain things from happening, and what a person as a normal citizen and internet user can do to prevent stuff like that. A few more questions we're going to be asking is what are the implications of defending against this crime? Are there any acts to protect it, like I just said? And again, how can it be prevented as citizens and current users of the internet? Our first point will be internet law. And to start off, that one has to question what is tort. And in this case, in the business law and law in general, tort is a wrongful act or infringement of right other than under contract, leading to civil legal liability. The most common tort is online defamation. Online defamation is one of the most prevalent cyber torts and could be subject to civil liability. Defamation is the wrongful hurting of a person's reputation by communicating false statements about that person to others through means of a digital environment, as we add online defamation. Another question that comes across is, what is cybercrime? And I might as well define crime as well. First, a crime can be defined as a wrongfully committed act against society as a whole. And for cybercrime, most cybercrimes are not new crimes, but are existing crimes in which the internet is the instrument of the wrongdoing. So now you just add the internet aspect of it. Why do people commit cybercrimes? People commit cybercrimes these days because there hasn't been a lot of defense against it. If you learn how to code and hacking and stuff like that, it becomes easy, and you can pick and nick and knack and get people on the side and get $1,000 here and there without it being traced. And people just found it easier and it's more convenient nowadays than actually going to rob a bank or holding someone at gunpoint, which I don't want anyone to do. There are different types of cyber crimes. There's hacking, there's use of malware, there's a lot of them. But the ones I'm gonna be talking about is I'm be defining a hacker. A hacker is a person who uses one computer to break into another to get information or download a file that they shouldn't be downloading. That is hacking. Then you have other malware, such as a botnet, which can be described as a network of computers that have been appropriated by hackers without the knowledge of their owners. And they are, like I said, types of malware. These are programs that do harmful things to other computers and consist of viruses, worms, phishing techniques, and other types of scams that can all happen because of these certain type of cyber crimes. And I talk about these type of cyber crimes because it is prevalent in the business world. People are thieves. They are stealers. Everybody wants to get money. And so you do have people out there that commit these crimes against big businesses and try to go unnoticed and try to take $1 million when they're making 50 million. And so kind of stuff like that adds up, and business nowadays just have to watch out on how tight their security, if their customers' personal information is correctly stored and it's not, and no one is trying to steal that or anything like that. And that's why it's more prevalent in the business world. We'll talk about that further on. As I keep going, like I said, more things in the business world, and to help individuals or citizens of, the United States understand more about their rights and their privacy rights here in this world. I'm going to list a few internet acts that have helped out tremendously and helped people, really understand what privacy means and how they can fight that in court if they ever need to. The first one is the Safe Web Act, which, from our reading and from our work throughout this semester, provides a safe harbor for internet service providers, ISP. It is a liability for supplying information to the Federal Trade Commission, which is FTC, concerning possible deceptive conduct and foreign jurisdiction. We also have the Can-Spam Act, which actually in terms means, it's the controlling the assault of non-solicited pornography and material. Don't mind that last word. But, this one consists of, false information, false return addresses, misleading information. This protects you from this act says that you're not allowed to email or send out information to people that is false information, that has a false return address, and that has misleading information that could lead to someone getting their information taken from them and, financial problems from that and all these other stuff. The Can-Spam Act is an act that prohibits commercial spamming activities involving misleading, deceptive information, as well as the use of harvesting software. When they say harvesting software, they're talking about malware and botnets and stuff that are used to usually scam individuals. One big act is the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of 1986. This law prohibits accessing a computer without authorization or in excess of authorization. It is most significant in the federal law addressing cybercrime is this act right here. This is the act which most people should be aware of, because it makes it a crime to access a computer online without authority of another, whether it's to obtain, classify, restricted, or protected data. Such data can include financial, credit records, medical records, legal files, military and national security files, and other confidential information in the government or private computers or things of our own, bank cards, bank numbers, routing numbers, all that. We want to keep that to ourselves, and we want a way to defend ourselves in the process. Other acts, I'm just going to name them. I'm not going to go into that much detail, but we have the E-Government Act of 2002, which just allows us to be in contact with more government services and processes more quickly. Communications Decency Act states that both internet service providers and individual users are immune to the liability for the republication of defamatory content on the internet from a third party. You got the Electronic Communication Privacy Act, which was enacted by the United States Congress to extend government restrictions on wiretaps from telephone calls to include transmission of electronic devices and so on. We also have the Digital Millennium Copyright Act passed in Congress in 1998, which protects the copyright holders of digital information, such as software, DVDs, and music. We pose this question: how are businesses involved and affected by cybercrime? One is we go back to the Act of Electronic Communication Privacy Act. This permits employees to monitor employees' personal communications made in ordinary course of business. And by doing ordinary course of business, that is doing like their regular 9 to 5. They're not able to access your personal information when you're not on the job or if it's not permitted by them or you yourself. Another one that affects in business is the Stored Communications Act. Prevents providers of communication services such as cell phone companies and social media networks from divulging private communications to certain entities and individuals. Like AT&T or Verizon can't just give out your information to any old body, to somebody, let's just say the milk company or something. They can't do that. And this act right here protects you. This act right here protects you, and it's called the Stored Communications Act. One thing also to note in the business world is that the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, investigates complaints of privacy violations. Another question I posed in my PowerPoint, which I'm also going to send as well, is how cybercrime can cause legal issues too. Cybercrime these days they cause a whole lot of trouble. But with the arrival of the various social media platforms and other networking sites, there has been a number of legal and ethical issues for businesses. Some examples are infringements, fraud, hacking, trademark disputes, and other things that could damage the business or company. And nowadays, social media posts is noteworthy to know that social media posts can actually be used against individuals in litigation. And I say this and pertain to business because you could be the head of a company. You could be a head of a company, and your post on social media can now put you in threat of being prosecuted for a crime or something like that. That has to do. That's what I say right there. Important technical fact, like I said before, social media posts can be used in criminal investigation and by the administrative agencies such as FBI to detect and prosecute criminals. Now we get down to it about my legal argument. I just want to give you guys a little background before I went to my legal argument real quick. And these questions I'm going to be answering, display what the law is, what the law is, what's going on. Talk about the different acts that's used in this law that can protect you. I'm going to talk about the legal law a little more. I'm going to give you the right version of the law or my argument. And then I'm going to show you that cybercrime can be affecting the business and what businesses now have to do to counteract its enemies. Here it is. My legal argument is, like I said before, if I voluntarily put my personal information on the cloud, the internet, thinking it's safe and all that, technically, if someone comes online and gets my information by accessing my files through a certain connection on the cloud to obtain money and personal information, aka hacking, then is that really a violation of my privacy and a cybercrime? Display what law is doing wrong. First one is we have the invasion of privacy. and it violates the Computer Fraud Abuse Act of 1986. This law, it talks about different acts in the law to use to protect us from copyright infringement, fraud, and personal information. This law also prohibits people from accessing my computer without authorization or in excess of authorization. So that's really just saying it's an invasion right there and there. We can say that's an invasion of my privacy for someone going up there stealing my information, and I can go to FTC. I can go to the FTC and file a complaint that my privacy has been invaded based on this one act right here. But also another act is the Communications Decency Act. States that both internet service providers and individual users are immune from liability for republication of defamatory content on the internet from a third party. That right there is also being used because I have put my information on the cloud or an ISP, which is just an internet service provider, and talk about that right there. As we keep talking, we debunk the law argument here. To make the law right, I mean, yes, like we said, it is an invasion of our privacy. People are not allowed to, just take my information from online without consequence, without legal consequence and things like that, thanks to those two laws right there that have been enacted by the United States, which also oppose my right to privacy and everything else like that. And that's kind of it for cybercrime. Yes, I mean, in recap, businesses are affected by cybercrime in a huge way. These days, companies as well as individuals, myself, small business owners, they fear money. They fear their money and their services will be hacked or wrongfully duplicated, and that right there in itself, I mean, that's a crime. But with those crimes, they are being helped by these acts. They are being backed, and there is legal action being taken against these individuals who do indulge in these crimes. Thus, businesses have to spend money on anti-hacking software, and have to hire individuals that are skilled in hacking that can counteract these folks. And then also we have to be safe ourselves. We have to practice good internet habits, not just putting our information anywhere. We have to look at the domains, see if they're spelled right, because those in itself can come up, and all of a sudden you're typing your information, but you're not on the google.com, you're on google.co, which could be another hacking site that someone's made because they understand that there is human error. People do make mistakes when typing, and they can get one person like that. So for those things, people just have to watch out in the business world and, as a normal college student or individual. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.